Thank you, Jack. When you get to be my age, if you can stand up, it takes a few minutes to shake the bones into place before you can walk. And that's at 93 years of age. I think Terry took my whole speech. Now this group that's promoting this memorial today, of course, is a nationwide unit. And they're going to have a day in August every year where they honor the spirit of 45. And that's talking about the greatest generation, as Tom Brokaw said in his book. They've asked me to talk today about Iwo Jima, and I'm certainly not going to spend my time refighting that battle of 36 days. Iwo Jima is a nasty little volcanic sand, sulfur, and rock island 700 miles south of Japan. It's a pork chop shape, don't try to say that fast, a pork chop shaped island. The fat end of the island towards Japan and the north end. It's 2 miles wide, and 5 miles down south you come to a volcano. It's inactive, 455 feet high. South of Iwo Jima are the islands of Saipan and Tinian, and that's where our B-29 bombers were stationed. And every day they flew a bomber stream up to Japan and bombed the hell out of it. Unfortunately, on Iwo Jima there were fighter planes, Japanese Zeros. They were intercepting the bombers. When the bombers got to Japan, there was anti-aircraft and there were more fighters. The powers that be saw that it was necessary to capture Iwo Jima to change all this. By capturing Iwo Jima, we eliminate the fighters and the early warning radar. In their place, we put in P-51 Mustang long-range fighters that could accompany the B-29s all the way to Japan and return. The losses of the B-29s were unacceptable, and I don't have a count, but it was large. Also on Iwo Jima, we would place air-sea rescue for those planes that didn't quite make it back to Iwo. The crews were in the water, and we had amphibian seaplanes to go out and pick them up. Before we landed on Iwo, they had 72 days of bombing day and night. 3 days before the landing, they had the shelling from the battleships, the cruisers, destroyers, and rocket ships. We were convinced that what they said was true. It was going to take us 3 to 5 days to capture the island because the bombing and the shelling was going to kill all the Japanese. Unfortunately, we didn't know about the tunnels on Iwo. The Japanese were resting quietly down underneath while the bombing went on. The only inconvenience, of course, was the vibrations from the bombing and the noise, and we probably interrupted some of their sleep. On the 19th of February, 70,000 Marines and sailors crossed the eastern beaches of Iwo Jima to confront the 22,000 Japanese. 36 days, probably the most populated real estate in the world, 7.5 square miles with hundreds of thousands of people. The losses on Iwo in 36 days, we lost 6,784 killed in action, died of wounds, and missing. Wounded and evacuated 21,912. On the Japanese side, over 20,000 killed in action, very few taken as prisoners. Now my company, as I said, Jack said, Company E, the 2nd Battalion, 28th Regiment, was typical of the 62 companies that were fighting in the front lines there. I landed with 6 other officers, 240 enlisted men. I had 70 enlisted replacements. When I left the island, I had no officers, one having been transferred to take over another company. 2 were killed and 3 were wounded. Corpsmen suffered the greatest casualties, I would say about 200%. The company suffered about 75%, or 3 out of every 4. Corpsmen, I had 7 when I landed. They were killed, wounded, or sick, replaced by 7 corpsmen, killed, wounded, sick. When I asked the medical battalion for some more corpsmen, they sent me 2 jeep drivers that had first aid training. They lasted 1 day. Iwo Jima indeed turned out to be a sanctuary for the B-29s. On the 4th of March, one of the B-29s came in, landed, had mechanical problems. From the 4th of March until the 14th of August, when the war ended, 2,200 B-29s sought refuge on Iwo Jima. This represented over 24,000 crew members. In addition to being noted because of the heavy casualties we suffered, we also are noted for a picture taken by an Associated Press photographer named Joe Rosenthal. Joe Rosenthal snapped a picture that became famous on top of Mount Suribachi, the 455-foot volcano. People don't realize that it wasn't the first flag that went up there, and I'll explain that. But Joe's picture became a Pulitzer Prize winner and became an icon of the Marine Corps. It was published all over the United States. The morning of the 23rd of February, my battalion commander called me and told me to send him a platoon led by my executive officer, Lieutenant George Schreier. When they arrived at the battalion command post, my battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel Chandler Johnson, handed a small flag to Schreier and said, "Put up this flag." Now this flag was 4.5 feet long. The patrol climbed the mountain, ran into no resistance. There was no resistance at the summit. And at 10:20, the morning of the 23rd, they raised a small flag. There were 6 Marines lifting this heavy water pipe they found on the top of the flagpole. Now down on the beach, just having landed, was Marine Lieutenant General Holland M. Smith. He was in command of all the Marines in the Pacific. He was affectionately known to us as Howling Mad Smith. With him came the Secretary of the Navy, Secretary James Forrestal. And Forrestal got on the beach and saw the small flag, and he says, "Holland, I'd like to have that flag as a memento of my landing here on Iwo Jima." Well, this word was passed by field phone over to my battalion commander, who turned to his adjutant, Lieutenant Greeley Wells, and said, "Hell no, he can't have our flag. We put it up there and we're going to keep it." So he devised a plan whereby he would replace that flag. He sent a lieutenant down to the beach to get another flag. He found a flag on one of those ships there, a ceremonial flag 8 feet long, and brought it back to the command post. There was a small detail leaving at that time to climb the mountain, stringing combat wire. So the colonel gave them the flag, said, "Give this flag to Lieutenant Schreier and tell him to take the small flag down, put this one up, send the small flag down to me," which he did, and they put it in the battalion safe. Now, just shortly after the big flag arrived at the summit, Joe Rosenthal, a photographer, along with 2 Marine photographers, Sergeant Bill Ganaus had a movie camera with color film, and PFC Bob Camel had a still camera. Rosenthal asked a Marine standing by what was going on here, and he said, "Well, the colonel wants us to take down this little flag. He's afraid somebody will want it as a souvenir. And we're going to take it down, send it down to him, then we're going to raise this other flag." So Rosenthal and Ganaus backed off about 30 feet. Bob Camel ran around to the other side where he'd get a picture of the little flag coming down the big flag going up. They were only about 12 feet apart. As the men, 5 Marines and 1 Navy corpsman, started to raise the second flag, Goodenough started filming and continued to film until the flag was erect. Rosenthal, on the other hand, snapped one picture, and he said it was at the peak of the event. And I asked him what the peak was. He says, well, it was when the flag was caught by the wind and unfurled. And as I've said before, that flag picture became very important. If you were to request information on the flag event from the Marine Corps, they would send you a pamphlet, and in the pamphlet it would tell you that my battalion commander decided that this little flag was too small and therefore ordered a large flag to take its place. Wrong. That is not right. Just take about 30 seconds to play a game with you. What if? What if the Secretary of the Navy had not come ashore and not wanted that little flag? There would have been no second flag. There would have been no picture by Rosenthal. There would have been no 80-ton cast bronze statue near Arlington National Cemetery depicting the Rosenthal picture. There would have been no 5 small statues scattered throughout the country, from Connecticut to the Pentagon to Quantico, Virginia, to South Carolina has one, and there's one down someplace in Florida, and I forget, it's alongside of the road down there. And the design of the National Marine and National Museum of the Marine Corps near Quantico, Virginia would have been different. They had a contest to submit designs, and the one that won has a spire off the roof constructed at the same angle as Rosenthal's flag pole. Now, last but probably least, is I wouldn't be standing up here today talking to you if that second flag had not gone up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George.